Hey everybody, welcome to Bill Selak Talks. My name is Bill Selak. This is me talking. So today we are going to continue the Rising Decline podcast series where I dive into stories behind our second album, Camden Road, that I remixed, remastered, and reimagined. Did I say reimagined twice? It's worth saying it twice for sure. Using the new stem splitter AI feature inside of Logic Pro. So we have old recordings from 2002, wasn't quite mixed, and now it's mixed, it's engineered, it's mastered, it's amazing. I love it. I'm so excited about it. So I'm doing a 9-part series, if you count the songs themselves, an 18-part series, which sounds so much fancier, looking at how each track came to life. In this particular episode, we're going to talk about really the collaborative magic of being in a band and how those same ideas can inspire educators just to be more creative and be more musician-like in the way they interact with students. So this week is the third song. It's called Carousel, and the take we're going to go with it today is looking at kind of the synergy of being in a room together and what each instrument contributes to a recording and a band and a song. How those instruments blend together, the ideas, the emotions. And so we're going to jump in and look at that music, and then, as I always do, connect it with educational technology, looking at music, teamwork, innovation, all the buzzwords. So the song. This started off, we have a new elementary music teacher. Her name's Grace. We were talking about music, as I often do with other musicians, and talked about this because I'm so excited about the Logic Pro stem splitter feature. It blows my mind that you can get just an MP3 that you would just listen to on your phone, and you can break it down into separate tracks and be able to mix and edit drums, bass, guitar, vocals. That blows my mind. So I continue to be super excited about the fact that this thing exists and that we can re-edit music that was once edited and bounced into a stereo track. So I shared those files with her, and then a couple weeks later heard back, and she was like, was this all recorded live? Did you actually play this together? Because I think a lot of people these days are just throwing in Logic Pro, drag the drums in, drag a loop in, add your vocals, and you're done. Or variations of that. I mean, at the very least, getting drums through Logic Pro, even if you're tracking original drums, being able to use Logic Pro to add samples in, it makes it sound so much better, so much quicker. Kind of the rule of thumb with punk rock bands when I was in the studio was you'd spend about a week setting up the drums and tuning them. Not even recording, just setting them up, miking them, going with them. And so she was like, I really like the second song, which was actually our last podcast episode. The last two, Picture Framed Candle. I was like, awesome, thanks. And she's like, did you play together? I was just like, oh, and that question really stuck with me, because for me, writing music together, playing in a band, is really that power of making music together. And I've talked about this a lot in other episodes, if you've been listening to the pod for a while, around the musician's lens. So the idea is that playing in a band, so in Rising Decline, I played bass, and most of the time when I'm in bands, I play bass because I need a bass player. And it was I can play bass in my room, and that's fine, and it sounds like me playing bass. But suddenly there's this magic of drums, bass, guitar, vocals. When all of that's happening at once, even when you're recording all of that, suddenly it just sounds like a band. And for me, that's so exciting. When you play live, it's so magical just to be playing your instrument, and then you're hearing a song. If you've not done this before, it's almost hard to explain, but it's for sure greater than the sum of its parts. It's not just me playing my bass. It's us making music. And I think that it gives people that were in good bands and actually really deeply listened and were present when they're playing live, that idea and being able to translate that to really any other job, any other kind of relationship, actually, the idea, I think, is so powerful for educators, being able to listen to those around you and not just you do your part, I'll do my part, we'll like whatever you want to call it. There's so many different ways to kind of slice it. Like you get slide 1, I get slide 2. Well, jigsaw it is how most people refer to it, using thin slides as like the edgy protocols version of it. But all of that is like, we'll just split up the work evenly. And that's not what this is. This is what we're creating is fundamentally different because I am here and because you are here. And not just any you, but like the actual you. And I think that this learning environment that educators can foster, where it's not just new class every year, different dynamics. Wow, this class really follows directions. Wow, this class really needs to move a lot. Not that, like that's such a surface level way of thinking about classroom community as a classroom teacher, but really like this particular kid in front of me fundamentally changes what this class is and who we are and what we can do as a class in super exciting, powerful ways. And I love that idea about really like relying on everybody in the room and knowing that they're going to bring something that will make it richer because of them. And so if we look at the song Carousel, it starts off with just an epic drum fill. So immediately you're like, cool, drums. Guitar comes in, bass comes in, instrumental beginning. And what I like about this song in particular is that if we continue the parallel, which is cheesy, but just stick with me, of like drums, bass, vocals, guitar, like each voice in the classroom also contributes to that, right? Like this is why you can also get away from the teacher talking all the time, because if all we had was a drum solo, like that's really cool for a little bit, or guitar solo, that's really cool for a little bit, or like just a break where it's just vocals, that's cool for a little bit. But when you're there to see like a rock band, you don't want to hear just vocals. You want to hear the whole band. And so it's a reminder for me that it's about literally having many voices, but also kind of pedagogically having student voice heavier in the curriculum. There's different breaks throughout the song, and if you've not been listening to this, you can go back and listen to the first track in this series, Camden Road. So I talk about Camden Road, then there's the song in the podcast feed, and then Picture Frame Candle, talk about it, and then you hear the song. And right now I'm talking about track 3, Carousel, and then the very next track you're going to hear in the podcast feed is that song in its entirety. No editing, that way you have the audio file. So I don't know, I like that way of doing it instead of like, I really like the song. Cool. Fast forward 12 minutes and then you'll be able to hear the song. No, just it's a separate track in its purest form. So the power of presence, the idea that you play in a band and there's this like deep reliance on each other, not just collaboration, but reliance on each other, reminds me so much about the physical space of a classroom. And that idea, that musician's lens, that you rely on each other, really, I think can foster a greater connection amongst learners and just everybody in the classroom, including the teacher. There's one particular way that I literally did this with music when I was teaching 4th and 5th grade music. We had kind of beginning band, which was 4th graders, and then new to instrument 5th graders. And then if you were second year instrument, you were in advanced band for 5th grade. And there was a thing I used to do, and it wasn't until I was kind of reflecting on everyone kind of coming together and making music together that I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot I used to do this. It was a call and response exercise where, like I say, hey, hey, and everyone goes, hey, hey, woo, woo. I say a thing, you say a thing. In the blues, it's a big thing where someone will sing a thing. I got the blues. It's a terrible thing. And then the guitar goes, that's a really lame blues lick. This is why I do not sing professionally, among many other reasons. But the call and response, one person or instrument plays a thing, and then a different instrument or person mimics that thing. And so there were times when our advanced band, keep in mind these are kids that had played for like 9 months on an instrument. I've been playing saxophone for 9 months. We called that advanced band. We'd have the music in front of them, and so much of what they were playing was like staring at the music and like in their own world, like blinders on, seeing nothing around them. Didn't matter if I'm waving my hand in front of them, they're like staring at their music. I am playing this note at this time by myself, and all of us are doing that. It's like parallel play in kindergarten in sandboxes, and that is not music. There's for sure a place for that, but that's not what a band comes with. And when I'm saying band, it's trumpet, trombone, clarinet, saxophone, flute. This is what our band was playing. And there were times when it was just way, way off. I could be in front of the classroom with a keyboard and like chunking out, just like bam, 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 just trying to keep them in line and nothing. So I'd pause it, and we'd completely rearrange. Instead of being in rows and sections, we'd have a giant circle, which for fifth grade takes a fair amount of time, but this was worth it. Get them in there, and then get the music, the sheet music, out of the way, and just make music, doing call and response. And at first it's just like, I don't get it. And so I'd grab like an instrument and I'm like, all right, I'm going to play the flute now. Doo-doo-doo. And then like eye contact with a student who you know is going to like engage. And then they like grab their instrument and they're like, doo-doo-doo. And then I'm like, all right, your turn. Like, you know, get someone else, almost like you're playing tag. And so then they're it, kind of. And then they kind of look at a person and go, doo-doo-doo. And the other person doesn't know the notes. They're just like, that's a saxophone. And then they look at someone else and go, and then someone else, you know, and just round and round until we're actually like communicating with each other. And the only rule is you can't say words. You just have to use your instrument. And so it's that kind of calibration of getting not only kind of the same rhythms reestablished, but just like the whole point of music is like, let's play music together. Let's make music. This is what making music is. It's not the music in front of you, it's us here. And so once we got that, then we'd go back, look at the sheet music, and almost out of nowhere, suddenly everyone's playing the same thing at the same time. They're aware, like the blinders that you would, you know, like a horse race, those are off. They're aware of everyone around them, and we're playing the same thing at the same time. And so if you're a music teacher, obviously, like, this is a really cool lesson and a way to kind of recalibrate, but also more metaphorically, like this way of like, pause what you're doing and let's actually like talk together, communicate together, do a thing. So anytime that you're kind of stuck on a thing, like just pause, whether it's just literally a body break, go like run around the building or like run here, run back, or whatever it is, or just like, you know, let's shift what we're doing, do a different thing, make that connection, and know that like the stuff you're doing affects me, the stuff I'm doing affects you. That's so, so powerful. And for me in this song, that's so much of what it is it bounces a lot between this part, you know, very obviously like the vocal has a part. There's a part where the bass plays the most interesting line, definitely parts where the guitar is the most interesting to listen to. There's a handful of drum breaks where you're going to really focus on the drums, and it's not so much where it's like, only drums, only guitar, only bass, only vocals, like a really simple thing. But there's definitely like an ebb and a flow to where I think your attention travels when you're listening to this song. So when you listen to the song in the next podcast episode in your feed, try and listen to that, like pay attention to where your focus lies. And hopefully it's going to bounce between all four of those things: drum, bass, vocals, guitar. And it's also just like, if we bring it back to kind of education, it reminds me of the importance of play. A few friends started Global School Play Day, so a quick shout out to them. If you know nothing about that, it's where you have a full day during the school day of unstructured play. Just to remember that play is the work of childhood, and that it is valuable, and that it is learning. And so I'm not insisting that we do that is the solution. That's a way to kind of recalibrate for students and for educators of like, oh, there's ways we can play. If we go to the call and response circle, there's ways we can recalibrate. There's ways we can improvise in learning. And this gets away from the structured format. I think this is why Matt Miller has had so much success with his Ditch That Textbook brand, because I think inherently educators know, like, once you understand the content, the textbook is so restrictive. And so getting beyond that structure and that adherence to a book that someone else wrote, because they don't know your students, they don't know you, they don't know your community, but using that like as a starting off point and then exploring beyond that, I think is so, so powerful. In these stories, it's really obvious how that's worked with music, education, but I think it can apply to almost anything we have. The other thing is how do we build maybe musical conversations? Not literally singing. We're not singing back and forth, but the idea that like kind of the call and response thing where you create an environment where like every participant, not just students, but also teacher, where you listen, you respond, and most importantly, you build on each other's ideas. This is that same idea of like improv with the yes and. And so much of that I think was lost because it was like, this is a fun icebreaker. No, no, it's not. Actually, most people that I know hate those types of icebreakers. I happen to actually love them. I'm in the minority there. But the reason they're so powerful is if you're doing them right, it forces you to deeply listen and build off each other's ideas. So the idea that you can kind of take musical conversations and build on them and apply that to the classroom. Like if we're just doing like an improv game, the non-example, the bad version of doing this is you have to plan a super over the top birthday party. And someone's like, all right, we're all going to take turns. We all had like one idea. One person's like, we're going to have a bounce house. And the next person's like, we're going to have cake. And the next person's like, we're going to have a clown. And yes, we're building a list, but that's like jigsawing Google Slides. You get slide 1, you get slide 2, you get slide 3. No. No, that is not the idea of building on each other's work. Building on it would look like everybody gets one idea. We're going to have a bounce house. And the next person's like, and the bounce house is going to have a clown in it. And the next person's like, and the clown has an inflatable dragon that they're jumping on. And the next person's like, and we're going to play volleyball in the bounce house. And the next person's like, and it'll be the clown versus the other people. And then the next person's like, and for food, we're going to have pies, but you have to throw it at a person if they drop the volleyball, right? Like each one builds on the other idea. It's not, let's improvise and be silly and be like, and I added a cake, and I added a clown, and I added a bounce house. No. You need to listen, and people's ideas shape your ideas. That's really the power of improv. And when you're doing this well in an education space and you're collaborating at a grade level or you're collaborating on an admin team or like big picture as a school, you're trying to like get everybody marching the same direction towards mission and vision. This is the power of improv. It makes you deeply listen to what your colleagues are saying and then add on and build on their ideas. That's what the yes and truly is. At worst, it's the no but. Like, I disagree with you. Let's argue about who has the best idea. At its best, it's you had a thing, I build on the thing. And so I think this ties back, certainly in my head, to like the call and response thing with the 5th grade advanced music circle. And that same idea can apply to really any classroom. And I think that when you do that, like attention, focus, enthusiasm bounces between all these ideas in a similar way that I hope your attention and focus kind of bounces between the different instruments in this song. And I think what that leads to is like a classroom, a school that thrives and needs, not just thrives on, but like requires flexibility, creativity, and reliance on others. In the same way that I think in this song in particular, Carousel, I certainly felt that writing, recording, and performing that song. Hopefully you'll catch some of that as you listen to it. Yeah. I like this song. I like this song a lot. I hope you like it. If you've not listened to our other 2 songs, go take a listen to Camden Road, Picture Framed Candle. Right after this podcast episode, the next one in your feed should be Carousel, the song in its entirety. This is song 3 of 9 of Rise and Decline's second album, Camden Road. And of all things, we are living in a rental. We have an Airbnb while a flood in our house is being repaired. And every day now, I'm driving off of Camden Road. It's actually Camden Avenue, but Avenue had too many syllables. Camden Road sounds really, really cool. You couldn't say on Camden Avenue. Camden Road sounds cool. So I'm driving down Camden Road, and it's like, hey, this was such like an obscure street in a city I hadn't really been in. And now I'm like, our Airbnb is just off Camden Road. It's wild. And now that's at least tentatively, what I'm calling the album, because I don't know that we ever named it. I should reach out to Brent and Marco and be like, dudes, what are we naming this? But go listen to that song. Thank you for listening. I'm really excited to continue our other 6 or 12, if we include the songs, podcast episodes about this album. My name is Bill Selak. This has been Me Talking.